And then there was this couple, and they were going out for the night to celebrate her birthday. And while they were getting ready, the husband, he put the cat out. And then after that, the taxi arrived to collect them, and as they were going out the door, didn't the cat shoot in between their legs and straight up the stairs? So they didn't want to leave the cat in the house for the night, the time they'd be out, for the mess it would create. So the husband, he went back upstairs to get the cat. And she got into the taxi, but she didn't want anybody to know that the house was empty, so she just sort of said to the taxi driver, she says, my husband, hey, just be a wee minute, he's just gone upstairs to say goodbye to my mother. So that was grand. A wee while later, the husband came down and he hopped into the back of the taxi, and he looked at her and he says, listen, he says, I'm sorry I was so long there, he says, but the stupid old thing crawled under the bed and I had to poke her with a coat hanger to get her to come out. This fellow was driving a brand new Mercedes out in one of the good roads, and I was fairly flying. He had the window open, the radio on, the breeze blowing through his hair. The needle went up to 80, and next thing it was 90, and he was doing rightly. The next thing he saw a flashing light behind him. He says, there's no way they can catch my car, so we put the shoe to the floor and the other foot in the accelerator. And he headed on, and the needle went up to 100, 120, and the flashing light still behind him. And then he thought to himself, what am I doing? So he pulled in, and the policeman came up behind him, and he looked at the car and he looked at your man, and he says to him, he says, listen, he says, pal, he says, I am just finishing off a tough shift. He says, I don't feel like writing any more paperwork today. He says, if you can give me a good reason for that driving you've been doing, he says, I'll let you go. I'll let you go. So your boy, quick as a flash, he looked at the policeman, he says, I'll tell you what it is. He says, He says, last week, he says, my wife ran off with a policeman. He says, and I was afraid that was them trying to bring her back. And then there was this old fella, and he had a problem with his hard to hear, and he was hard to hear, and so he went to the doctor, and the doctor was able to get him fitted with one of those new hearing aids, and it allowed the man to hear better than he'd ever heard before in his life, and it was great. And about a month later, the old fellow was back again at the doctor. The doctor says, well, listen, I've checked your ears again. Your hearing is perfect. Well, do you know, your family must be really delighted now that you can hear again. And the old boy looked at the doctor. He says, oh, I haven't told the family yet. He says, I just sit around and listen to them talking about me, and I've changed my will 4 times. There was a big policeman on duty down in Galway, and he's on speed checks, and he's out there with the hand control speed to them. You know the way they stand in the bushes where you can't see them, and he's there with the hairdryer pointing down the road, and he has a big straight stretch of road. He sees all these lights flashing and cars overtaking on the inside and the outside, and so he sticks the speed gun on, and there's a car coming up the road that's doing 17 miles an hour. So he couldn't believe this, so he flags the car and pulls it in, and he's about to stop them. There's 3 fellas in the back seat, and they're all white as ghosts, and they're all shaking, and not one of them can speak. So he goes over to the driver to give out to him, and the first thing the driver says, he says, before you speak, he says, I wasn't speeding. And the guard says, of course you weren't speeding, you were doing something far worse than speeding. He says, you were going far too slow. The driver says, I was not. He says, I was doing exactly the speed limit. I never go over it, I never go under it. I was doing exactly the speed limit. Your man says, you were not. He says, look, he says, you were doing 17 miles an hour. 17 miles an hour. And your man says, isn't that the speed limit? Well, I says, who told you that? The speed limit is 60. He says, no, he says, there's a big sign down the end of the road, says the driver. It says that the speed N17. The guard says, that's not the speed limit. He says, that's the number of the road. And he looked at the 3 lads in the back seat, and the 3 of them like white and shaking. He said, what's wrong with these 3 lads? The driver says to the guard, he says, guard, we're just after coming off the R174. This plane was in Dublin. It was ready to take off to go to New York, the passengers to come on. And one of the passengers had come on and saw the lovely leather seats in first class and sat down. And the steward went over and said, can I see your ticket? And he showed him the ticket. The ticket was for economy. He says, I'm very sorry, sir. He says, you can't sit there. He says, your ticket is economy. This is first class. The passenger was a carryman. He said, oh, I'm sitting here. Great seat. I'm sitting here. Sure, that's great, you know. The man said, no, you can't. You're in economy, he says. He said, this is first class. And he wouldn't get up. So the captain came on and he spotted the argument, and he called the steward over. He said, what seems to be the problem over there? And the steward says, well, that passenger, he says, he's from Kerry, and he's sitting in first class, but his ticket is economy, and he won't get up and move for me. The captain says, not at all. I'll deal with this. The captain went over and he whispered in your man's ear. Your man shot up, grabbed his bag and ran back to economy. And the steward said to the captain, he says, whatever did you say to him, sir? The captain says, I just informed that first class wasn't going to New York. This man was out shopping with his wife one day, and the two of them were shopping around the town, and the next thing the man felt he had to go to the toilet. So he went into the public toilets, and he went into a cubicle, and he sat down, and he just sat down and was preparing to do what he was going to do. And the next thing, the fella in the next cubicle, he could hear him saying, "Well, how's it going there?" And the man sort of looked up a wee bit, and he says, "Not so bad, it's all right, yeah." He says, the man in the next cubicle says, "It's a grand spot of weather, isn't it?" And the boy says, "Yeah, but it's fair enough, wee bit of rain there yesterday, but it's not so bad, you know." He says, so the voice on the other side says, "Well, what are you at today anyway?" Well, I'm down doing a bit of shopping with the wife, he says, and I just felt that I had to go to the toilet. And the next thing he heard the voice in the other cubicle saying, "Listen, Harry, I'll call you back. There's some idiot in the next cubicle," he says, "keeps interrupting us." These two lads, and they weren't well. They were in a mental hospital for years, and one of them disappeared. And his mate, after about a week, couldn't figure out where he went. So he went up to the boss man. He says, "Where'd my friend go?" The boss man says, he's released. He's gone." He says, "What do you mean he's released?" He says, "I never heard anything about it." "Well, we felt maybe it was time for him, to get back into society, so we gave him a little test and we released him." So the man said, "Well, look, I'm here the same length of time as him." He says, maybe I should do the test and release me." "Well," says the boss, "well, come up to the office," he says, "and I'll give you the test." He says, so we're up to the office. It's a very simple test. Now, he says, only 3 questions, and you don't have to answer them now. He says, I'll give you the same chance that your friend got. I'll give you a week to answer them. Come back to me in a week with the answers. He says, now, it's a very simple test. He says, the first question, he said, how many days in the week begin with the letter T? Right, he said, "Man, that's a grand question." Second question, he said, how many seconds are there in a year? Right, might take a bit of working out that now. And the third question is, how many D's are there in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? No, that'll take me a week, all right, he said, So anyway, I come back the following Friday. He says to the boss, he says, "Have them 3 questions." He says, the boss is right. He said, what's the first one? He says, how many days of the week begin with the letter T? And your man says, 4. So what do you mean 4? He said, "Well, there's Tuesday, Thursday, today and tomorrow." So the man says, well, technically you're wrong, but I suppose you're right. So he said, "I can't fault you on that. You're using the brain." The second question, he says, how many seconds are there in the year? Well, he says, that took me a while. He says, "It's a trick question." He says, "I knew it." He says, 12. No, he says, "How'd you make that out?" Well, he says, "There's January the 2nd, February the 2nd, March the 2nd. Well, technically, again, you're wrong, but he says, "I'll give you full marks for that." No, he says, "You're winning so far." Now, he says, the last question, he says, how many D's are there in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? No, he says, that was the one that took me all week. He says, 257. Well, so how'd you work that out? Well, he said, it took me a while, but it's dee 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 dee. There was this old couple, and they were well in their 80s, and they went down to the doctor one day, and the two of them sat in with the doctor, and the doctor says, "What seems to be the problem?" Well, the man says, "Well, doctor," he says, "I think my memory is going." He says, "I think my memory's nearly gone." The doctor says, "Why?" Well, he says, "I just a lot of things I don't remember." He says, "Well, when did you discover this?" He says, "Discover what?" he says, "When did you discover your memory was going?" He says, "Well, we come back from holidays. It's a couple of weeks ago." He says, "Well, we were away there for 2 weeks in where were we? Where in the hell were we? Now, there's a good doctor. Where were we?" And he says, "Doctor, what do you call that stuff that grows up the outside of a house?" And the doctor says, "Ivy." He says, "That's it, doctor." And he turned around to the wife and he says, "Ivy, where were we on holidays 2 weeks ago?"